Greetings, Padawans. I wanted to briefly talk about the two concepts, two very important concepts when it comes to assessment, appraisal, testing, and counseling. Today, I want to dive into the two most important foundations of assessment, reliability and validity. These two concepts determine whether the tools we use in counseling, such as tests, inventories, or structural interviews, actually provide accurate and useful information. Without reliability, our tools are inconsistent. Without validity, our tools may not measure what they claim to measure. Together, they form the backbone of ethical and effective assessment practices. So let's go into a little bit more of understanding reliability. Reliability refers to the consistency, stability, and dependability of scores on an assessment. In classic trait theory, every observed score is made up of two components, the true score and the error. The true score is the individual's actual level on the construction being measured. All right. That's their actual score. Error reflects random influence like fatigue, guessing, or environmental distractions. The reliability coefficient tells us the proportion of variance in test scores that is due to true score rather than error. When you look at the reliability coefficient, it ranges from a 0 to 1. Okay. The closer it is to 1, the higher reliability. An example of reliability of a 0.90 means 90% of the variance in the score reflects true score and true ability. 10% reflects error. Types of reliability. There's retest reliability, and that's stabilization of scores over time. Like, for example, a depression inventory should produce similar results if taken 2 weeks apart, assuming no major life changes. Alternate parallel form reliability, consistency across different but equivalent versions of a test. Example, Form A and Form B of a math placement test. And internal consistency reliability, degree to which items on the test measure the same construct. For example, this is split half method, the correlation between two halves of a test, and what we also call the Cronbach alpha, the average correlation among items. How related are the items to each other? What's the relationship they're related to each other? And interrelator reliability, agreement between different raters. Two clinicians diagnose the same case. Limitations of reliability is high reliability does not guarantee validity. Reliability can vary depending on test population, conditions, and time interval. Okay. Trying to understand validity is a little different. Validity is about accuracy. It answers the question, does the assessment measure what it is supposed to measure? An instrument can be reliable, but not valid. For example, if a bathroom scale consistently adds 10 pounds, it's reliable, but not valid. Threats to a validity. Construct underrepresentation is test fails to capture the full construct. An example of this is like an emotional intelligence test that only measures empathy, but ignores self-regulation. Construct irrelevant variance. Test is influenced by factors unrelated to the construct. Example, this is reading ability affecting performance on a math word problem test. There are different types of validity evidence. Content validity, do test items represent the entire construct? A career interest inventory must cover multiple domains, not just STEM. Our response process, are test takers engaging with the test as intended? That the instructions are clear, items are not culturally biased. Internal structure, do tests relate as predicted? Often tests with for analysis. Criterion related validity, how well test scores predict outcomes? There are concurrent validity, does the test correlate with a current measure? Predictive validity, does it forecast future performance? For example, like a GRE predicting graduate school performance. And construct validity, the overwhelming and overarching type. Evidence from multiple sources, content, internal structure, criterion supports that the test truly measured the intended construct. Some of the limitations of validity include validity is not a property of the test itself, but of the inferences we make from test scores. Validity is an ongoing process. No single study can prove validity forever. Okay. Linking reliability and validity, think of reliability and validity as related but distinct. A test must be reliable to be valid, but it can be reliable without being valid. For example, a clock that is always 10 minutes slow, reliable, but not valid. Validity depends on reliability, but goes further by addressing accuracy of interpretation. Reliable, but not valid. Cluster shots far from bullseye. Valid, but unreliable. Scatter shots with some near the bullseye. Reliable and valid, cluster shot at the bullseye. Okay. So as counselors, we must evaluate the reliability and validity evidence of any assessment tool before using. Some examples of this is this anxiety inventory reliable across different cultural groups? Does this academic aptitude test have predictive validity for students from low-income backgrounds? Are there items free of bias that could introduce construct irrelevant variants? You also got to look at ethical considerations. The 2014 ACA Code of Ethics requires counselors to use instruments with appropriate reliability and validity for the population served. Misusing the test can harm clients, perpetuate systemic bias, and erode trust. So to summarize, reliability equals consistent. Without it, scores are unstable. Validity equals accuracy. Without it, interpreting are misleading. Both are essential for ethical, effective assessment. And as future counselors, your role is to critically examine these qualities before using any tool, always considering the cultural and contextual needs of your clients. All right. So I would like to thank you, and hopefully it's clear up any misconceptions or misunderstandings that you might have with reliability and validity.